Hey guys, GMX here, and welcome back to our Road to Civ 6 Deity series, a series dedicated to giving players information to be able to play at a higher caliber. In today's episode, we'll be covering what to do in your games between turns 20 and 40. This is a sequel to our turn 1 through 20 guide, and I highly suggest you check out that video as we will be touching on some of the items from that video. By this time, you should have scouted at least 10 tile radius around your first city, had your first 3 or 4 productions, selected your first researches, and maybe done some diplomacy with the AI. The next big item you will want to focus on is when and where to settle your next city. Some things to consider when settling your second city depends on the surrounding AI, barb aggression, and space. For AI, if you have aggressive AI like Cleopatra, Trajan, or Alexander, you'll likely want to prioritize a couple more military units prior to building your next city. Having 2 or 3 slingers with some supporting warriors can hold off most fights. The same thing applies to barb. If you're already getting barbs chasing towards a city, get an extra slinger or warrior to hold down the fort. If you're looking for tips and tricks on early combat, be sure to check out my video on that subject in the description below and in the card on screen. Lastly, in regards to space, if you're surrounded by city-states or AI, it might be a best play to settle and hold a quick city towards the AI to ensure that they do not settle and limit your empire expansion. Alternatively, if there are no city-states or AI close to your capital, there's no pressure to forward settle, and it may be better to get a quick builder to improve your capital to ensure good yields. For where to settle your next city, be sure to use scouting to your advantage. Your second city should not be more than 8 tiles away from your capital. The reason for this is to ensure that the cities can support one another militarily if one of them gets attacked. Like I mentioned in my How to Settle Your Cities video, you also want to be looking for a second city that has at least one 4-yield tile within the first ring of the city, and at least 2 or 3 4-yield tiles in the next ring that your city will grow to. And of course, always look for those bonus and luxury resources to secure those bonus yields and amenities. The next item you want to cover is your first district. This is going to be based highly upon your civ, the terrain, and your enemy. For your civ, take a good look at your leader and their abilities. Are they geared towards religion, or maybe have a bonus for theater squares? Be sure to subscribe because I'll be coming up with a video discussing the best win conditions for each leader. For terrain, you want to have a good understanding of how to get your bonuses on your districts. For this, look in the Silvapedia in-game or at the production screen and see how you can use your lands to get the best districts. A good model to go by is that mountains are good for holy sites and campuses, rivers are good for commercial hubs, a peel of tiles is fantastic for preserves. Choke points, or placing it next to your enemy, is a great location for encampments. Natural wonders or entertainment complexes are great for theater squares. And floodplains with a combination of dams and aqueducts are great for industrial zones. This is a huge topic and will be covered in another video, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. Lastly, your enemies are a smaller part, but may be the deciding factor in your first district. If you have an aggressive civ near you, it may be the play to rush for an encampment to ensure better production for units and a potential great general. Alternatively, if there are 2 AI that you've scouted and both already have their holy sites up, and you want a religion, you better get on it. If none of these are helping you decide, I personally go for the district that I can get the best adjacencies for, and then go from there. The next subject we'll be covering is continuing exploration. This is a fairly simple choice as it is based upon your aggression from the AI. If you're under pressure, keep your main military units within 6 tiles of your city, but your scouts should continue to scout around, as it is a low enough combat strength that it wouldn't really matter if you were attacked, and it isn't really much help in a fight. If you are not under pressure and have good diplomacy, try and keep at least 1 unit around your city, and the rest are free to explore. The further and further you get into the game, the more and more options open up for you. So I am going to quickly run through 3 Deity games and go through my choices in these 20 turns. So first I settled a city next to the mountains, settled pretty good around there, good campus adjacencies, and then I met 2 city-states right off the bat, got some easy envoys with them, then scouted to my south, saw 2 more envoys, went ahead and got pottery as well as mining as my first researches, and then went for an early settler as I had many city-states around me. I then started pinning out my empire to make sure that I had the best adjacencies for all my districts. I then pinned out my next cities that I wanted to settle as to make sure that I can utilize this land, as I am pretty encamped in here by all of these city-states. I then pinned out one to the south as well. Then I met Pericles, and then immediately went for archery, and then immediately the next turn he went ahead and denounced me. I then picked up a free builder from a tribal village, and then started going for some military units since Pericles had just denounced me. I went ahead and forward settled them just a little bit, and then kept scouting with just my scouts. Kept the rest of my warriors and stuff around my empire. I then built some farms, and then kept scouting with a scout to the west as well. I then upgraded an archer, and then met 2 different AIs, which is Sweden and Zulu. I then started moving some units to my forward settled city as I saw some Pericles' units coming my way. I also made the switch to military tradition so I can get flanking and combat bonuses as well. In my forward settled city, I went ahead and started building an archer. That way I had additional support. I then went and put one of my slingers into my capital, upgraded to an archer, and then presumably waited for Pericles' war to be denounced. And there it goes. They started attacking my units. I then got bronze working up, and then I started using my warriors and archers to attack the Pericles' attacking units, starting with the warrior in my city to damage them. I then used my archer in the forward settled city to pick off the units that were heading to my capital. Not sure why he didn't attack my forward settled city, and then I started going for campuses with writing technology. I then decided to put down an encampment to try to get some better units, better production for units, as well as potential great generals. Pericles continued his attack, and then I kept shooting down with the archers, and then hitting with my warriors as well. I used the warrior to the south here to be across the river, as well as on a defensive terrain, so if they tried to attack across the river, they would take a lot of damage. I kept building military out of my capital to ensure that I had a supporting units, as my capital is super low. I kept using my archer in my capital to shoot those units and slowly whittle away the warriors that were attacking. In my forward city, I'm still using this archer to shoot the units Pericles was sending that were navigating around that city. I then got my second archer in that forward settled city, and now I'm just dismantling all of his units. So in this early game, I was able to scout out, knew I needed to forward settle a city, knew I needed to get some units up, and successfully defended against the Deity AI. In my second game with Pericles, I settled near some dice, got some quick faith for that, and immediately started going for a scout. And my first technology was animal husbandry to try to chop out the deer. I met Buenos Aires, but I was not the first to meet them, so I know there was an AI close. I then met Peter to my south, and he was rather close to me, so I went ahead and started going for some combat units immediately after getting my scout. I went for 2 slingers immediately after. I then met another city-state, but I was the first to meet them, so that was a good change of pace. I then noticed there was an AI to my north, so I went ahead and tried to find somewhere to forward settle them rather quickly, because I was surrounded by the AI pretty quickly. So I went ahead and pinned in my next city I was going to settle. The AI to the north of me was Robert the Bruce, so I went ahead and made diplomacy with him, and continued to settle my city up to the north. I then chose Divine Spark as my pantheon, and also met Korea in our game. Not a good start. I went ahead and settled my city to the north, then got the archery promotion so I could upgrade my slingers. I went ahead and moved all my warriors and slingers back to my capital, and then upgraded my slingers to archers. This was in preparation for a war with Peter. I can then continue to keep my cities close and scouted with my 1 scout. I then tried to forward settle my next city and try to plan out where I wanted to settle because Peter had forward settled me even closer. This was a rather boring and kind of turtley start because I was afraid of the DD AI going to war with me. In my third game, I rolled Cyrus, and so I went ahead and settled my city and started working the dice. and then chose my first research as mining. I scouted north with a warrior, and then scouted south and saw that there's a city-state that had already been met by another AI. I then went for the pottery technology, and then looked at my land and saw that a builder would be the best next choice. I then scouted to the east and saw a barb encampment, so I switched from the builder to a slinger. I scouted to the west a little bit and met Brussels, and then cleared the barb encampment to the east, got another slinger, and scouted to the north. I then chose the Stone Circles Pantheon, and then I met Rome, which is usually an aggressive AI. So then I looked where I wanted to settle towards him, which he was down to the southwest, or southeast. So then I chose my spot here, as well as another city up to the northeast. During this time, I'm working on a settler as well. I then want to settle a city down to my southwest as well. It's going to be encapsulated by city-states, so I want to set one there. I'm going to go ahead and forward settle Rome to make sure that I capture that land. And then I'm going to work on some supporting military units. And with that, go for the archery technology. In that newly founded city, I'm going to go ahead and put a slinger in there as well to make sure I have enough military strength if Rome declares war on me. And then I go for another settler. I then went for the bronze working technology. And that wraps up our 3 game summaries of our turns 20 through 40. Hopefully this guide helps you with founding your own cities or getting your empire started. If you guys have any recommendations for other Civ 6 users, be sure to leave them in the comments below. Be sure to also give the video a like, and also subscribe for more content. Thank you guys for watching, and have yourselves a good one. See you next time. Bye.